Okay, can confirm we didn't sound like robots.
We're back, guys.
We're back for episode 2, but every time we start the episode, we have to quickly check, do a quick test, make sure we don't sound like robots because our friends Chloe and Elodie have done a podcast before, and I think Chloe sounded like Chloe sounded like a robot the whole time.
Wasn't her birth story too? Like,
yes,
not the one you really want to be sounding like a robot for. Super important potty app.
The most important recording of your life, and you've recorded yourself in a robot sound. Oh my gosh, when she told me that, I was just like, that is so sad.
Like, how do you replicate those same feelings and emotions again? You almost feel like you're like, I want that same feeling again, but how do I get it?
It was like the saddest joke.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, that is actually so devastating. But then when I listened to it, I couldn't help but laugh because of the robot sound. It's like of all the sounds, it was a robot.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah. Okay,
out.
so we're always going to, let's just do that double test.
Yes, we've got to do the checky. But yeah, we're doing episode 2. We're still in the apartment. Flick, you have been living the Narrabeen dream here for the last 10 days while I abandoned you and went over to Europe for 10 days.
I know. No, it's been good. Let's do a little
been?
Life update. For me, the last 10 days has been nice. I've literally have been you. I'm living in your Airbnb, been driving around your car. I'm Laura, but with red hair here. And it's been so nice. I've been living my best Sydney life.
Any parking fines? Any speed fines that I should be knowing about?
Look, potentially a speeding fine or 2.
Oh, great.
Hopefully not.
At least they'll be able to see the flaring red hair that you've just got freshly done. So I'll be able to be like, it wasn't me, it was her. Send it over west.
Hey, one thing I was absolutely shitting myself about was about 5 days into you being away, I noticed that there was this dent on your driver's side mirror, and I was like, holy shit.
That wasn't there before.
Mate, you had me the whole time I was like, oh my God, fuck, do I take a photo of it and send it to Laura now and be like, hey, this happened and don't worry, I wasn't driving. But the last thing you want when someone bloody gives you their car, and they're like,
I should have pulled your leg with that a bit longer. I saw the fear in your eyes when you were like, the mirror has this, basically, I definitely, I did a little boo-boo in the car, but
Laura got home yesterday and I was like, fuck, I'll just tell her now. And so I was like, Laura, look, I don't know if you've seen this on your car, if it was there before or not. And you're like, no, it was there before. And I was like, oh.
I know, I saw you freaking out, but I wish I was more of an asshole to have been like.
Nah, put me out of my misery. Anyway, I was stressing over that for a while. But other than that, it was a nice time. I was just living the best Sydney life. I was going for my hot girl morning walk. I'm basically a local here. I go get my coffee at Zuby and the guys think I basically moved. And it's like, do you live here now? And I'm like, yeah.
all those crew, because Flick wakes up at 5 a.m. She's an absolute freak of nature. And she's on WA time. So that's 5, 4, 3, 2 a.m. I don't know. Anyway, you're everywhere we go, 5 a.m. bing, up, hello.
I know.
Seize the day. But yeah, all those crew that are on your 5 a.m. walk's going to miss you.
I know.
The quick nods.
The morning nod.
Who have you got? Who's on the morning walk with you?
So I've definitely got this older guy who wears headphones. He does the 2 little the older guy who wears these headphones, he does the 2 headlands. He has these really bright hockers on. Anyway, we always do the... Yeah, mate, how you going?
Nice,
one of those ones.
Nice.
I've got this Chalky Lab that looks like my brother's Chalky Lab, exactly the same.
Do you guys have a little stop and pat every day?
Stop and pat.
Okay, that's gorgeous.
And it's great interaction. I love dogs.
Does everyone wear headphones when they just go
I always just take one earmuff off. That's the polite thing to do, Just be like, I am engaging in this conversation and also your dog.
Yeah,
not
totally.
Much
Yeah, I know. How's when you're just hi to the dog and you're hardly say hi to the person. You're like,
what else have I done?
Gosh.
Went into Paddington, did a little bit of shopping, had a few... What else did I do? Just
you did some media stuff?
A little bit of media. Went into Channel 9, did a little segment news on Wide World of Sports.
Lovely, saw
with
that.
Roz, which was fun. And then that's kind of it, really. I've just been doing a few little things on the potty, going over revisions of episode 1.
You've been holding down the fort while I've been on like a whirlwind of a
Talk to
trip.
me about Europe. Every time I open up my phone, Instagram would load up. Laura has these like 10 stories uploaded and you're just doing like either a crazy movie premiere or like jumping off a cliff or like just doing something or like amazing Swiss Alps. I'm like, yeah, talk us through it.
Yeah, before I left, I was like, all right, Flick, yeah, I'll be totally contactable the whole entire trip. Yeah, like I don't know anyone on this trip, so I'm just going to be like on the train doing my work, catching up on emails. I'll just be so available. Bow, bow. Absolutely the opposite. Like this trip it was just so fun. I think I did 8 cities in 9 days with 7 premieres. And
Jeez.
we just got trains between everyone. I was so excited because I've actually never been on like a train for more than like 5 minutes, like a subway. I've never been on a train that takes you like
And you travelled
long
with
distance.
no surfboards. How amazing.
Far out. That was absolutely amazing. It's literally like so good. But I actually just packed so much stuff into my suitcase that I ended up losing. And I think just like I'm not used to going like bang, bang. I unpacked this suitcase every day. I lost my camera. I lost my brand new headphones. Oh, they're in hotels around somewhere. I need to call them. But yeah, I was definitely like losing and shedding things along the way. It was pretty full on. But one night in Paris, so like these premieres were amazing. It was for a film that I've got like a segment in called Human X, and yeah, the premieres were really cool, but they would go so late. And
the Euro lifestyle.
Yeah, full Euro lifestyle. So some days the movie wasn't finishing until 12 in Paris. So we were at this beautiful theatre. Movie finished at 12. We did a signing from 12 to 1. Went and sat down for dinner at 1 a.m. I was getting cheesecake brought out to me at 2 a.m.
Oh my god.
2 a.m. I was like, and there was like a whole lot of people in, and then we had to get up to get the train at 6 a.m. And so, yeah, it was just a whirlwind. I was like, nowhere else in the world would you be getting a cheesecake at 2 a.m. and just like smashing it. And then we tried to go to a club, but I was like, I'm so full. Like, I can't even get in the mood for this.
Living that European lifestyle, doll.
I know.
Also, it's your birthday tomorrow.
Yes. I'm in denial.
Don't know if we should timestamp this, but it is. It's your B-day tomorrow, mate.
Yeah.
How are we feeling?
I'm like feeling like I don't want it to come, but I'm also excited because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like from the last 2 years I've been like, I didn't want my birthday to come. I'm like, I just want to be 30. I don't want to be, I was going to say, don't want to be bigger than that.
I don't think you're growing anymore. It's okay.
I don't want to be older than 30. But I'm actually excited for 33 because apparently you said it's a lucky number. And I do feel like, you know, I'm excited about this time in my life and about all the fun things that we've got on the horizon. Work wife here, we've got the podcast, I've got some fun projects, and then I'm just excited to go to Hawaii, but also just like, I don't know, just to be in my health and wellness and like early morning phase of my life.
Oh, look at you go. You're back from Europe. That also helps. But yeah, early morning hot girl walks.
I have been getting up earlier lately, which has been amazing. And I used to think it was actually impossible for me to wake up early, but it's happening. I'm shifting. There's a lot of shifting going on. Also, you went to the Reiki healer.
Oh my God, I know.
You did? Okay, and she's amazing. She's spot on. The stuff that you told me was
I sent Laura
pretty wild.
Another one of my podcasts, and this thing is wild. She was very direct in what she says, and sometimes, you know, I think if you didn't appreciate information like that, it would be like, whoa, okay, that was a lot. But I really like that. I like someone who's direct. I like someone who tells me like how it is, basically. And it was really eye-opening.
Because the truth can be hard, but it's the only thing that can make you realise like, wow, I need to step up or shift or transform and, you know, be aware and conscious. But I remember she did say that there was like, I don't think she got there yet, but there was a dark presence around your broken ankle.
Oh, yeah. She was saying that the foot like area, which is obviously where I had my injury, she was saying that there was like, she seems to think that this, if you're into this, that there was an energy or a person or someone that was like willing for that to happen. And I was like, wow, okay, that's like some pretty crazy energy that you, I know, like you literally said someone who's like got you as a voodoo doll and was like,
okay, anyway, we're hoping we've cleared this energy now and we're on our road to
I break your foot and then I break your ovary and then I break your relationship.
Don't be a victim. I said this in the first ep, and people are probably going to think, wow, you're an actual bitch, Laura, but there's actually context to this story of Don't Be a Victim, because basically Flick, after she'd broken her ankle, we were in Hawaii together, and I was driving in the car, and we were doing some WSL commentary at the pipeline contest back in February. And
I was having a whinge this morning. I was just, I'd been pretty good about this.
You were
and
just
I was
just unloading.
Oh, Laura, this really sucks on my foot, and I don't know, my big wave season's over, and then this happened and this happened. And I was having a moment, and we get in the car, and I'm still having this moment, having this whinge, basically having a whinge. I was having a whinge.
No, you were just,
And all of a sudden,
unloading to your mate.
Laura just says to me, don't be a victim. And I just looked at her and I was like, excuse me? Like I was ropeable.
It sounds so bad. And then I just felt, so basically, I can lose connection. My husband says it's like I lose Wi-Fi here and there. But basically I was driving and I realised I was going the wrong way, so I had to do a quick U-turn. So I've driven into this car park and parked in this spot. And right when she's talking, I look up and there's this sign that says, lock your cars, don't be a victim. And I just go, don't be a victim. And then I just feel this energy and she looks over to me and I was just like, oh, no, the sign, it says don't be a victim. And she was ready to actually.
Honestly,
I thought she was going to punch me in the head.
Yeah, I was like what did you
it was
say,
probably the most offensive thing I could have said to her at that time. And I was like, no, look. And then thank God I was just like, maybe. I realised at the same time how that sounded, but I just was reading the sign out loud.
But maybe it was your weird way or the universe coming through to me a bit like, pull your head in, Felicity. You're in Hawaii.
Lock your car, don't be a victim.
Working, it's all okay. And that was the universe trying to speak to me through you being stop whinging.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, mate. But I don't think so.
I was allowed to whinge her off. I've had a fucking year.
Fire. You literally hardly ever whinge. You are an absolute trooper.
Sometimes.
I honestly think that you are one of the most resilient mother effers on the planet. Wait till you hear Flick's backstory. It is just, like I've said a million times, you could write a book and maybe 4 books.
Different chapters.
Different
as the
chapters.
Plot keeps evolving.
Yes. But where should we start, Flick? Because we want to do an episode on your backstory, my backstory. Yeah. But I think
it's just good for the rest of the potty for everyone to get to know us a bit better.
Yeah.
And just the episode to go back to if you ever just need to, get reacquainted with us and just a good reference point, really.
Totally.
Yeah, I guess another reason for us to do this podcast, I think is, one, if you really, I think it's inspiring people to live life with urgency, right? Yeah. Because we've both had experiences in life which have forced us to think about the reality of it, the fragility of it, and, what would you do if you only had 10 good years left of life? How would you choose to live it? Who would you want to spend that time with? And would you choose to know that as well? And I think, we've both been dealt cards like that, or both been in situations where it's forced us to really think about that, or your own mortality. I think that's another really important message that we want to sort of get out there to encourage other people to think about life a little bit like that as well.
Yeah. It's we literally only have one life. Sorry, do you want to have a little cough?
I don't know what's going on. As soon as we record this thing, I'm like a fucking gremlin. What's going on?
But I think we've both had experiences with, loss and grief and losing loved ones. And like you said, that inspires us more than anything to get out there and live our life to the fullest. And not everyone has to go do a very dangerous sport. I think, that was always in our core that we loved that adrenaline and we've got that wild side. But it is a reason as to why we go for it and want to,
Well, I think it's what you're saying is you don't necessarily need to go take off on a 20-foot wave to feel alive, but do what makes your heart be on fire, or do what you're passionate about, because they're the things that really give life meaning, right?
Yeah, and do it for the people that can't.
Yes, exactly. You've really just nailed it.
Yeah. And so I guess in saying that, we are going to dive deep into your backstory. Mm-hmm. Flick, where do you want to start with this? Because it's I mean, you've had 31. How old are you? Sorry.
What, 32?
32. You have had 32 incredible, wild, hard, beautiful, What other words would you like to chuck in there?
Challenging at times, but rewarding and years on the planet, I guess.
Yeah.
Laps around the sun, yes, I think you could say. But yeah, I guess we start at the beginning. Like, I'll give a full snapshot. Obviously, I was born in Perth in Western Australia. And yeah, my mum and dad were really young when they had me. They were only 21 years old. They actually,
oh my gosh,
were like,
imagine if we had like 11-year-olds right now.
Oh,
that's
my
wild.
goodness. Well, my mum and
babies.
dad had 3 kids before they were 25.
Wow.
I'm 32 right now. I'm like, I could never. So yeah, they had myself and then my brother Luke and then Alex. And I've got 2 years between, Luke, and then I've got 4 years between Alex. And they were like lovers since they'd been 16 years old. They met in high school. And then they had me, and my dad is a surfer. He absolutely loved it.
And he's always surfed, yeah.
Oh, yeah, like the eternal grommets. So still more stoked to this day to go surfing
I
than
know.
me.
My dad and your dad are like 2 peas in a pod.
Mate.
They surf more than us. They're just like every day, like wham, bam, like we're out there.
Yeah, cut from the same cloth.
Totally.
And so, yeah, born in Perth, and both parents love the beach.
Yeah.
Dad surfs, mum loved the beach. And my earliest memories of being a kid were basically, if the weather was good, mum would be like, we're going to the beach all morning, right? Just spending that time down there, like good, positive relationship with nature, just the beach, like having a good time, like playing. You know what it's like?
Yeah,
like,
totally. That was like our family as well. It's like every school holidays was like taking the 4-wheel-drive up the coast to go on the beach and camp. It's like such a good way to live as a little grom, like off, like it was like, I think the only like little bit of technology I had was like a Nintendo, and I'd play Tetris on it, or like
same the Game Boy.
Yeah.
But and then we moved down to Margaret River. My dad, he has been a ceramicist my whole life, so makes pottery.
He's an incredible artist.
Yeah, he's really, really talented. And my mum at the time, so my dad would throw the vessel, and then my mum at the time would glaze it or paint it, right? Wow. And then they would go around to markets on the weekends and sell their pottery. So like we grew up as those little kids going to like little markets and stuff.
Oh my gosh, cool.
Yeah, it was so fun. And good little upbringing to be around like parents that are creative and like really encourage that, right? And
you're an artist as well.
Yeah, dabble for sure, but I haven't been doing too much of it recently. I had a little bit too much on the plate, but yeah, I love art. And obviously that's because of both my parents. And mum also studied fashion design, so she sort of had that creative flow as well.
Wow.
And then we moved down to Margaret River because my dad started a business down there, like doing his own ceramics, and fully threw himself into that. And a couple of years into us being down there, mum and dad actually separated, and mum was like, I'm going to take the kids back to Perth, and like, so kind of lived in like this.
And how old were you in that? How old
I
were
would
you
have been really
happened?
young, like 4 or 5 maybe.
Okay.
But, you know, like they do say that obviously those things affect you from those ages of like 0 to 7. Like they really, I don't remember it, to be honest.
Yeah.
But obviously now, like I've talked to my dad about it over, like, you know, you become an adult and you like, so what actually happened there, Dad? And he would like told me. And then when my mum was still here, like alive, she would tell me things about it too. And anyway, so we moved back to Perth, and that's where I went to school, and that's where I started surfing. So I started surfing at 6, like super young, probably like similar to you, I'd say. Like, I don't know, when did you start?
And so did your dad move back as well?
He did eventually.
Okay, yeah. So then, so school up in Perth.
Yeah, school in Perth. And at that time,
I don't know how you started liking big waves, because where you live doesn't get big.
Oh, mate, Trig is like look, I shouldn't roast it too much because the locals there are so patriotic about it. And I love it too. Look, Trig Point on its day, every dog has their day, they say, and Trig can pump. They'll probably hate me for saying that
it's like
too.
Once a year, fuck.
It is. Hey, that one Chill Pro Junior that we had there was actually probably as good as it gets.
Far out. I remember that being like a shore break.
I know. It was not good, sorry. Anyway, so yeah, Trig is not really known for its big waves. Margaret River, on the other hand, is, which is like 3 hours south of Perth.
Okay, and did you finish school?
I did.
Wow.
I did.
Well done.
I know.
Up to you. I didn't.
Loved school, but only for the relationships and talking to people and having a good old time. Like I wasn't really there.
And what
that
were you
much.
like at school? Were you like like a popular girl, or were you like a sporty girl?
I was hardly there for one, because like at 16, probably
were you
similar
like a bookworm?
Oh my God, no way. Can you imagine me in the book? No, I'd go to school for the relationships, the fun, the friendships.
Totally.
And I just would get sent out of the class for talking.
Oh, so you're naughty. The naughty talker.
I was a bit like cocky, like in terms of, I don't need to be here. I'm just going to be a surfer. Like, like what a little shit. Like,
oh my
sorry
gosh.
to my teachers. Like,
that is fucking
you know what
funny.
I mean?
That is so good. I can imagine this person now.
Do you know what I mean? Just like, yeah, I'm too cool. And I would just get sent out.
Wow.
And then I'd be like, fine, well, whatever. I'm not doing my like ATAR or whatever it's called where you get that mark. I don't even know. And so, but like I loved art and I loved human bio.
You only like the things that, I think it's like the ADHD thing is like you're only into the things that you actually, I don't know, like are excited about.
Yeah.
Everything else you just like, oh my God.
Just like, when are we getting out of here? And what I would do is I would be like, Miss,
I'm sure that's like everyone.
Can I please go to the toilet? And she'd be like, yes, Felicity, like you can go to the toilet. And then I would literally just cut laps just walking around the school because I couldn't sit still. And I'd just be like, I've just got to go for a walk. And the walk would be like, I'm not even kidding you, like 20 minutes. And then like there'd be a search party out for me. She'd be like, where have you been? And I'd be like, I just went to the toilet. She's like, did you fall down there?
Miss, I got my period.
But yeah, like I loved like home economics, so cooking.
Wow,
and
nice.
outdoor ed, because our school that I went to, shout out to St. Mark's Anglican, had this like state-of-the-art high ropes course, and they offered like
high
outdoor
ropes, no way.
Yeah,
oh
which
my
I weird for me because I
gosh.
hate heights. But anyway, I was like obsessed with this. It's like camping, navigation, like all this.
Okay,
like,
that's really
practical.
cool. That's where you did. Is that where
learn
you
how
learned
to make a fire with my bare hands. No.
Is that where you learned how to change a tire?
Yeah, guys, I can change a tire. all
Okay,
right?
I was laughing so hard. So basically, all of my girlfriends were at a hens party. A couple, it must have been last week. And I flicked this video of all of them standing around one of the girls' car, and there was a flat tire, and the caption was 10 girls, 1 flat tire. And I was like, this is where we needed Flick to be here. Like, she's the ultimate bush baby.
Hey,
like,
get me in there. I can make a fire with my bare hands. I can change a tire.
She can change a tire. She, even when I was away, she was like, I'll fill up your...
Oh, the washer fluid? Mate, that's not
and
that.
she actually cleaned my car. What a legend.
Nice. I know.
You're
Look,
amazing.
mate, it's the least I can do.
You're a real freaking outback baby. Well, you've been on Survivor. Holy shit. Let's not forget that.
Anyway, okay. Anyway, fuck me.
Okay, so where are we? We're at high school.
Left school, obviously traveling like crazy as you were too.
Yeah.
Just like
Pro Junior, WQS.
WQS, qualified on tour. And then... I loved all of that part of my life. My dad was traveling with me too. He was like my coach sort of.
Yeah,
at the
we
time.
had a couple of trips together where we'd stay
did.
together.
I know.
So good.
Funny thinking back on that now
I
and to think about where we're
know.
sitting, like recording a podcast together, like
I
work
know.
wife. But then I think that brings me, so like I had this really good junior career, like state titles and I won an Australian title, I think, and then qualified. And I just felt like it came to, I think it was 2014 or 15, and everything felt like it was becoming a lot. And I think that's where I get into this next stage of the backstory is like 2014, 15 were big for me. That year I actually decided to take a year off competing. Like I just completely fell out of love with it. I started to feel like it was like a really selfish pursuit, and going on in the background of that, I had a lot of personal things going on with my family. And over those years, like my mum and dad's relationship had deteriorated a lot, right?
And so, because they were separated, but did they get back together?
They got back together, and then they stayed together for while all us kids were in school and high school.
And so, but that was up at Trig.
Yeah, in Perth.
So living in Perth.
Yeah, and we're living in Perth, and they were together. And then basically at the time, we didn't really think anything of these behaviours because we just thought that, well, if the family thought that mum and dad are going through it right now, like maybe this is like mum's behaviour is because of the relationship breaking down, right? But she was just becoming a bit more like introverted, I guess, and more to herself and didn't really want to do things. She actually went and did her degree to become a primary school teacher. So she did 4 years of study, right?
Wow.
And then all of a sudden, after the 4 years, she was like, I don't want to work. And everyone was like, this is weird. Like, why? What? You did this and you were like passionate about it and you loved it, and all of a sudden you don't want to do it. Like, that's a bit strange. But we just thought, oh, maybe it's the relationship. And then mum and dad actually split up, right? And that was pretty hard and for everyone. And there was a lot that went on.
Do you remember how old you were when that happened?
like early 20s.
Okay.
Really early 20s. And so, 2014, 15. And during this time, my mum and dad split up, and my grandma was like, my mum's mum was like, hey, Pauline, like, which is my mum's name, why don't you just come and live with me while you find somewhere to live? Like, the family house got sold, and, you know, it's kind of a weird thing when your family house gets sold. Like, it's just a strange feeling. Anyone who's gone through that would be like, you resonate with it, right? It's a weird thing. And so everyone thought,
just like, where do I live now? What are we doing? Like, it just, you have to like cut ties with that whole last 20 years.
Yeah. And so then my mum moved in with my grandma, and that just went on for a really long time. She was living with her, and my grandma slowly started to notice that my mum was doing some weird things, right? But like just thought, oh, okay, like she's just finding herself. And it wasn't until my mum and my grandma went to a family get together to see some family that they hadn't seen in a really long time, right? And this family member was a speech pathologist, and she called my grandma after this get together and was like, there is something seriously wrong with Pauline. Her speech is slurred, and I think she may have had like a mini stroke.
Oh,
and my grandma's like, and so automatically you think, holy shit, like this is pretty serious. And like when you're living with someone though, this is the difference. Like you don't see these minute sort of changes in someone because it's like over time. It's like when you haven't seen one for so long, you notice it, right? So my grandma's like, okay, well, of course I'm going to take her to the hospital straight away. Take her in there. They're doing all these tests. They can't figure it out.
No signs of stroke.
No signs of a stroke. And my grandma's like, I'm just not happy with this. Like if, you know, this family member seems to think that something's not quite right. Like we need to get to the bottom of it.
And at that point, did your mum, was she kind of like something's not right as well?
It's so hard because like going on before my mum and dad split, my mum and I actually had this huge like falling out, and we didn't speak for a few years. And so it was really hard for me to even get a read on like how she felt about the whole situation because we weren't really speaking, right? And then my grandma was like, well, I'm not happy with that. I want more answers. And so she got all this additional testing done, and she found, long story short here, is that she found out that my mum had this like different type of dementia called FTD, which is frontotemporal dementia, right? And there's actually a lot of different types of dementias, and I had no idea about this until then. And I just thought, oh, okay, dementia, like there's a big blanket statement, right? But that's not the case. There's lots of different types.
And how old was she when your grandma found this out?
46.
46.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
46 years old. And so then my grandma is like, okay. Now going on to give a little bit more context to this, when I was 12 years old, my granddad passed away from motor neuron disease, MND. Now, my grandma just wasn't happy with the information she had. I think she went and got this additional testing done in Europe, and she went back through our family tree, and she started to find this correlation between early deaths on my granddad's side of the family, right? And so my grandma got my brothers and I in, you know, she was like, hey, I need to have a serious conversation with you right now. Like, I need you guys to all come over. So we go over to my grandma's house, and she sits us down and she says, look, what I'm about to tell you is basically not going to be easy to hear. And what I found out is there's actually a genetic mutation that runs in your family, this family. And there's a correlation between your granddad passing away. I think he passed away at 60, his early 60s, from MND, and the FTD with that, which Pauline has. And basically you have a 50% chance of inheriting this disease. And if you inherit this disease, you know, you're going to have, if you're gene positive, you will either develop FTD or MND, right? And
MND is kind of the opposite. Your body starts going and your brain's still there.
And so MND is motor neuron disease, and basically your body shuts down around you, but you still have your brain, right? And that was really difficult for me to watch that. My granddad passed away from that too. It was like my first death when I was 12, and like, yeah, it was really, it was tough. And in that moment when she told us all of that, I think like my brain automatically goes to, okay, well, we know that mum had been acting strange for a long time, right? So I currently sit here now and I'm 32 years old. At the time, I was only in my early 20s, and I'm already starting to contemplate like my own mortality and what that means to me, right? And there's not that many people that sit there in their 20s that are contemplating, holy shit, like when they might die, right?
Because your mum was 46 when she found out, but then you can trace back.
Oh, she was probably showing symptoms earlier. Let's just say she started showing symptoms when she was 40. So even now, like when we currently sit here and record this, like I'm 32 years old, and I have chosen since this, my grandma said to me, look, there is a test that you can get done and you can find out if you carry the gene. It's a simple blood test. Now, I've made the conscious decision not to do that because, like, I don't want to know if I have this gene. I just feel like I'm the kind of person, if I knew that, like I would be thinking, oh my God, like it's one day closer to like, you know, like I'm 32 now. My mum started showing signs at 40. That gives me only like 8 proper more years of life, 10 maybe. And like the way I look at it is like, yeah, it's been like the most defining moment, but it's also given me the most clarity because it's given me this sense of purpose and like urgency in which I live my life with. And like, I guess like, yeah, the questioning mortality is actually given me a purpose in life and it gives me a reason. And like everything I do now is like so conscious, like who I choose to spend my time with, where I go, you know, where I put my energy into, my relationships are my most important thing in life. It's kind of just given me this big, different perception and clarity, I guess you could say. And like,
and I remember you saying once, you're like, you know, if you worked a 9-to-5 job, it would give you, you know, you'd probably want to find out just to be like, I want to completely shift my life and change everything. But you're living your dream, your truth, and it's made you even more so do that now.
Yeah.
And so you're like, why would I find out? And just,
it's so true, right? Like I've kind of just said that, like it'd be so different if I was working a 9-to-5. I'd be like, fuck that, I got to quit this job and I've got to like travel to see the world. And like the reality of it all is that like we're all living in this situation, right? It's only until something like this happens in your life that it really gives it meaning and it really makes you think about things because life is fragile, right? And
no one knows their time limit on life.
No.
Like, how did you even deal with that when you first found out?
I was so upset. Like, I guess like you just feel ripped off with life and like I don't know, like I might be negative. I don't know that right now. Right. But I felt ripped off and I felt like I'd been cheated and I felt like hard done by. And I was so upset. I was so emotional. I remember like calling my best mate Kiara and telling her. I remember calling one of my other friends, Sophie, at the time and just like, yeah, like I just like.
This makes me want to cry. It's like you're 22 years old.
Yeah, 22, 23 and like thinking, holy shit. Like, and you know, it brings you to the other conversation of like can I have kids? And then also like it brings me to like thinking forward into the future and like relationships. Like if I'm with someone, will they want to be with me if they know that, you know? And that's a scary thing too. Like, that makes me like sad to like think about because, and like I've spoken to one of my other friends about it. She's like, that doesn't matter. Like people aren't going to care about that. But like it's different when you're like sitting in those shoes, you know, and like.
And I feel like you're so good at not thinking far ahead. Like you live in the absolute present. And this is like, we always joke about like not planning and stuff, but it's actually because you probably are like, if you think that far ahead, you will be sad every day because it will like, you know, you need to live now and you're like living so full and complete. And
I think it helps me live in the present, but also I think it's also a downfall of like me not wanting to forecast too far in the future. Like, because you do need a plan. Like it's all very well to sit here and say like, oh, be in the present. But when I think about that and I think about my future and I'm like, I would love to have kids one day. Like, how do I go about that? Like there is options, right? Like one, I get tested and I find out if I carry the gene or not. Now, I don't want to do that because I feel like mentally I would not be okay if I found that out.
Yeah.
So I want to avoid that, right? So that's not an option. Option 2 is I try and have IVF, go through IVF, and they do this thing called PDG exclusion testing where they pull out a gene and then they, put the embryo in and they don't tell you if they had to do it. But, you know, if IVF keeps failing over a number of times, like you're going to kind of know, like they don't tell you why it failed, but you're going to probably have a pretty good reason as to why. It's because they couldn't pull out the gene, right? Then there's another option. Like I could get an egg donor. Like say if I find a partner and like I could get an egg donor.
Yeah.
And then I can still carry the child. I know my child will be fine. or an adopting a kid. Like there's options, right?
Totally.
But then there's the other moral question of like, well, is that actually okay if you go ahead and have a child, but you actually don't know your gene makeup and you do carry it and then you pass away and your child doesn't have a mum, you know.
And is
like,
going through what you went through.
Exactly. And exactly like losing a parent.
And then obviously like they'd be a lot younger than you were when you went.
Yeah, but then at least I'd know my child is okay. But
we've spoken about it before and you've mentioned that maybe your stance on finding out might change when you're closer to your 40s. And so you're like, you want to live these 30s now and not have to know about what's there, what's on the other side. But, you know, maybe when you are approaching your 40s, it might be something that you do.
I think so. And like a while ago, I actually went to, so basically what happens when you want to find this out, well, is you have to go to genetic counselling, right? Because some people find this information out and it completely cooks them, and that's what I think would happen to me. So you got to go through this counselling session, and I was almost going to find out if I had it, and I just asked her flat out, the therapist or the counsellor, like, okay, can you just tell me, like, what's the ratio here? Like, surely you know the numbers of people who want to know and people who don't.
Yeah.
And she was like, I can't give you any better answer. It's 50-50. Yeah. Like some people are like dying, like they couldn't live without not knowing.
Yeah. And I remember we've been at a party before where someone that you just met that night was like, I would have to know.
It's very easy for people to sit on the outside and be like, you should get tested or you shouldn't have kids or you should do this. And it's like, well, are you fucking walking in my shoes?
Yeah.
No. So like, I don't think you're actually allowed to have an opinion. Well, you can, but I don't really care. It's a fucking asshole and I'm not like listening to your stupid opinion. Everyone's got one.
It's your body, your choice. It's like anyone else's opinions can absolutely fuck off.
Yeah. So we find this out, this information, and all these questions and scenarios are going through my head, circumstances, like how to approach life, like what do I do here? How do I reframe? Like, wow, how do I get back up from this? And then
you had a moment.
We had to deal.
You could have at that moment. You had to decide at that moment: do I sink or swim?
100%. I was in fucking deep shit.
What do you do?
Well, there's only for me like only putting one foot in front of the other, right? Like, and the thing is the reality of it all is that you live, shit happens, and I don't care who you are. Like, something will happen if it hasn't happened yet. Like, this is just life, and that is actually what gives life its beauty and its meaning. And that's kind of what I spoke to before. Like, really, death is the only thing that gives life meaning, and it's like a morbid thing to say, but it actually is, because without that, you have nothing would mean anything, right? There would be no urgency. There would be nothing.
Every single experience in life is beautiful or horrible or sad, but that's what makes life what it is. It's you know, all these emotions and how we react to, you know, these moments, these pivotal moments, these hard moments, these good moments. And, you know, this was a moment for you that has definitely shaped and shifted your life.
Oh, completely. I think it's completely defined me, and it dictates everything I do, and it sits in the back of my brain constantly.
You mentioned before that you and your mum had a falling out, and this is before you found out about her diagnosis. And was it at that point when you found out about the diagnosis, were you kind of able to feel like, looking back at the falling out, like that was her behavioural, like the start of her behavioural problems and issues and symptoms?
We did have that falling out, and the unfortunate thing of it all is I was living on the East Coast at the time when she got diagnosed, right, and we hadn't spoken, and then by the time I'd moved back west or had any inclination to go back, so what happened is my mum deteriorated very fast, diagnosed at 46, and over the short space of 3 years, my grandma cared for her like amazing. My grandma's a bloody saint. She cared for my granddad until he passed away, and he didn't go into a high care facility. She looked after him right until that moment. And then she looked after my mum. Mind you, she's like 75 at this stage, 76.
Looking after her own daughter who's deteriorating in front of her eyes. It's so horrible.
Oh, man. Like, first your husband and now your daughter. Like, are you kidding me? My grandma is like literally my biggest hero, idol. Someone who I'm like, grandma. I know. Someone who I'm like, amazing. Wow, man, like if you can dedicate your life to like someone else and care for them like that is fucking inspiring. And so, and then the people who get dealt cards who you can't fucking change that, like a diagnosis like that, that's fucked, but you still have to choose to wake up every single day and like my mum. Anyway, so she deteriorates really fast, right, to the point where, you know, she can't shower, she can't feed herself, and she's non-verbal, which means when I get home, I don't get a chance to really have that reconciliation with her and that conversation. Like, I think it was without spoken word that she knew that I didn't hold that animosity towards her anymore. But it's still a thing that I like struggle with a bit today. So it got to the 3 years and my grandma was like, I just can't do this anymore. You know, like my mum couldn't, like, she was like unable to control herself, like going to the toilet and like, you know, just accidents happening, and like she would escape out of the house. And like there was this one time when like the dog squad got called out, the helicopter went out, and she would like run away. And
at the same time that all this was happening, you were still traveling. You're a sponsored athlete. You know, you have to go do what you're doing. You know, you can't just stop your life. And your dad and your brother, your dad and your brothers, like you're in, you know, started big wave surfing. You know, everything for you is happening, but like that pull and that feeling to be able to be like, I should be here with mum, but like I need to be doing this. And your dad and your brothers were so supportive. They said you knew that your mum wanted you to be doing this.
Yeah. She would have, and like because I still grapple with the guilt of like leaving and not being there enough, right? But then like I am so grateful for my grandma as well, who was able to care for her like that, because like if we didn't have her there in that place, like we would have been doing that. And so for her to be able to do that and give us the opportunity, like my brothers and I, like my brother went to America to play soccer. I was traveling, like my other younger brother was studying, like doing all these things. Like we wouldn't have been able to do that if it wasn't for her. And so, and also like, you know, it's nice to hear from, you know, your mum would want you to be doing this and traveling. But it's so hard because like when I think back to this, right, and I think about all that shit that was going on, like I actually think it really did impact my career, like as a competitive surfer, because there was only 1 year that I had on tour. And I'm not saying because of this that happened, but like when you've got so much weighing you and like it feels like a burden that you're carrying. And at the time I was so embarrassed by it all, because like who has a parent that's non-verbal at 45 years old or 46, you know, and does, you know, is living with dementia and this type of dementia that's not really that known. So like my circle of people that really knew about this was very little. So I felt very isolated.
You had the walls were up. Like there was only certain times where you would actually like, you know, that even we spoke about it back then, and it would just be like this overflow of emotion, and when you couldn't hold it in, but you actually held it together so well, and from the outside looking in, no one would know at all what you were dealing with at home. Which is the wildest thing, and why every day you should be kind to people, and you know, because people can put on this front, which you were so good at doing. Like you would be at all these events doing all your work, just like absolutely hustling, being at Jaws, big wave surfing, and like, and at home, like you had, the
there's a lot going on.
Heaviest thing going on in your life.
Yeah, and then I think, you know, my mum goes into this high care facility, and at this time I'd moved back to Western Australia, and I mean it's difficult watching her in there. You know, like she's in this wheelchair and bound to it, can't move from it, and that's her life. Like, and physically she's changed a lot over those years as well, and it's a confronting thing, and knowing that this could be my future, you know, like that's raw,
you know. But then you having to throw in this whole other thing of seeing your mum and being like, is this gonna be me? Holy fucking shit, that is so hard.
It's hard. And like, and then I feel sorry for her, because like she couldn't communicate then, and you're like, what are you saying, and like what are you thinking, and what are you feeling? And like, I don't know, I just feel for her. And like, because like I feel like, you know, there was a point in the end there where like I think the only thing that she was doing was like, she was doing this but we didn't know why, but she would like self-harm and like bite herself, and I was like, fuck, like, oh, it was really gnarly, like to the point where she was biting her hands and fingers, and this was right at the end, like gnarly, like really serious stuff, and like where it was getting infected again and again and again. This was right at the end, and then we basically got told that she might only have a year left to live. And during that time, so I got an opportunity, this is a bit of a random segue, but it will make sense, to play Survivor, right? Yeah, and I was like,
which was all
right,
like so freaking cool and awesome.
So cool, like, but I was like, fuck, this is a weird thing, but let's go. Like, let's go. Let's see. Like, and that's just another thing. Like, let's go. Let's play this game of life.
Like, and everything that you have done in your life has been like, you jump right in, let's go. Like, that is another fucking jump in the deep end moment. It's like, you know, you're just like, I remember like when you're on the show, you did an interview and you're like, I'm doing all of this for my mum. Like,
yeah. And so I get told, she had a year. I get this opportunity to go on the show about 6 weeks before going on the show, my dad calls me and he's like, I need you to drive to Perth. And I was living down in Margaret River and I'm thinking, why? Like, he's like, I need to have a conversation with you that I can't have over the phone. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, obviously your heart sinks, right? And you're like, this is serious. Like, if you're having a conversation like this, it has to be something bad. It has to be health related. And like, I remember I drove in the car and I was crying the whole way. It's like a 3-hour drive.
And at this point, you were like thinking your mum, right?
Well, no. So this is, I hadn't gone away on Survivor yet, but right 6 weeks before Dad called me and was like, I need you to come to talk to me, drive. And this needs to be a conversation in person. So I drive to Perth. We have this conversation. He's like, I've been diagnosed with leukemia and I've only been given 5 years to live. And I'm like, wow, okay. Like, and that for me, like,
killed you.
Oh man, it just like absolutely broke me
Destroyed.
because like, and I didn't really speak too much about this. I said he coached me.
So you have a
but
mum that's maybe got a year to live and
a
a
dad that's been just given 5 years. I know. No, it was like, yeah, it was heavy. I know. And then he was like, but he, you know, he needs a bone marrow transplant to survive. And Dad's still going, like strong now. Shout out to Warwick. But
Shout out Warwick, you absolute legend.
Little weapon.
You
But,
and he still surfs every day.
yeah, when he can, and he's not like. So he's okay, but he basically tells me this. And look, we have a really strong, special relationship, like, you know, like you do with your dad. Like, they taught us to surf and like we have that special bond, and then he coached me and traveled with me just like your dad did. And like, obviously I had a great relationship with my mom, but it was fractured in the end. And then, but this is just like, there's a difference between like losing someone, like, this sounds really weird and it might sound a bit fucked to say, but like there's this thing called like ambiguous loss, right? Where you're like grieving someone while they're still alive. And that was what was happening with my mum. Like she's still alive, but variations of her are dying as she's living, right? And so you're grieving as it's happening. Whereas with my dad, I was just like heart ripped out of my chest. Like I have conversations with him every day. Like we're talking on the phone. Like this is like I'm a carbon copy of him. It's like, you know, I'm like, love art. I love ceramics. I love surfing. I just want to be him. Like, oh, Floss, you charge hard because I do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and so that was fucking rough. And then I go and play Survivor, right? And I get this phone call about right towards the end of the show. It turns out I'd done all right. And
you actually did. Hang on. Survivor, you slayed. You were so good. I was so like curious as to how you'd go, but I knew that you know, because you can absolutely
relationships and talking.
You can literally freaking talk underwater and you meet friends every day of your life.
Yeah.
Like you can just like blah, 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 like
it's relationships game. I was like, bring it on.
And also you're obviously very athletic and a weapon. And there was that first swimming challenge where you were just like basically like, dragging people along. Like it's like a full like water woman, like mermaid.
I know.
It was so good.
It was fun and it worked out all right. So I'd made it like there was only a week left of the game, and all of a sudden like I had these things before I played the game that basically.
Were you in the final five? Or
yeah, it was like only 6
happened?
people remaining. And prior to me going into the game, you're obviously doing all these tests like psych tests, resilience tests, The psych said to me, hey, like, look, I don't know if it's a very good idea if you play this game. You've kind of got a lot going on in your life. And I was like, yeah, I know, but like that's part of the reason why I do want to do this, because life is short, and that is, if I've taken anything from this, that's what it is.
Totally.
She's like, okay, well, let's just say like, and I said, well, if my mum, so basically it got to the point with, if I got told that they would let me know if something had happened with my dad where like I needed to fly home immediately, because usually you don't have any contact to your family in that game. Then, or B, if my mum had stopped swallowing, because we as a family had made the decision that if my mum had stopped swallowing, that you can choose to prolong someone's life by putting a peg in their stomach and feeding them through a tube. But we just thought that is just a cruel thing to do, because who are we keeping her alive for? Like, you kind of want to, or do you want to let nature take its course? And when someone stops swallowing, then they can't eat and then they die. And so we decided on that, right? And anyway, I get this phone call happens during the game, and my dad was really sick at the time, and the producer started walking towards me, and I thought it was my dad. I thought that something happened with my dad, and
And so basically the producer doesn't come into the show.
No, they
so
are
you're so you're basically at camp, right?
Whereas at camp and I see a producer walking towards me like, we need to speak to Felicity, and I'm thinking, I just knew straight away.
And they don't come in often, right?
No, they're in camp all the time, but they're not speaking to you because they want to keep you very much in the game.
Yeah.
You know, they've got their camera crew who they're with and their producer and the sound guy, but they
so like you knew straight away, like you freaking knew that.
Yeah, and they were like
something fucking really bad.
And you know, I don't think nothing can prepare you for the moment when you lose your mum, and especially that it's the very defining moment in your life because the very thing that gave you life, your life source, is now no longer here physically.
So the producer just walked over to you and just told you?
It's a really good question, and I actually feel like because it was so traumatic, I feel like my brain has like kind of blocked it out. I feel like I got the chance to speak to my family and they told me, but I'd already knew that it was serious because I was only going to get notified if something serious was happening.
Yeah.
And so I spoke to my family on the phone and they were, I think it was...
Grandma or...
Yeah, it was my grandma, or was it my brother Luke? Far out. My memory's so bad at this time.
I think that's what happens like in absolutely traumatic moments. It's just like...
And so I spoke to them on the phone and like to cut a long story short, they were saying, you know, mum's only got a few hours left to live and this was crazy. And like obviously knew I couldn't make it home in time, and they said to me like we're in here now with mum, like if you want to say anything to her, like now is the chance. And like it's so weird when you're put on the spot to like say your final words to someone, because how do you summarize that? You know, like what do you say? And like just considering the relationship we had and the way it went and it was fractured and like just...
Yeah. Do you remember what you said?
I don't really remember because the whole situation was just so foggy. I just remember I said like, thank you for everything, because like, you know, she did bring us 3 kids up. And I think it was just like came from gratitude out of than anything, and like that there's no animosity there, and like that it's okay to go and we're going to be okay. And like it was along those lines of like, but just mainly gratitude for what she did do for us and like how hard that must have been, like being 25 and having 3 kids under 6 and all that sort of stuff. I think, but like fuck, like it's like, yeah, it's pretty crazy. And so she passed away, and then I played the rest of the game, which was like a week, knowing that she had died. And you know, I would like just break down and be so traumatic, and then but at the same time like you're playing this game that's so hard. Like my parent
also you've just like
my grandma was like, don't come back. Why would you come back? When I spoke to her, she's like, Pauline would want you to play this game. She's like, what are you coming back for? She's already passed away. She's like, she's not going anywhere. Like, we're going to wait for you to have this like service, and we'll wait for you. Like, what are you coming back for? Like, we've been grieving this for a long time, Felicity. Like, you know that.
I mean, and at the same time, it's like, let's think about it. You're in this game. You've been, 5 weeks in? Like, you're hardly eating. You're hardly drinking. Like, you have nothing to even, like, help numb this pain. Like, if you wanted to pick up a drink at any time, just be like, I just want to, like,
I just want to have a drink. I just want a piece of chocolate. I just want to, like eat a burger.
There was no escape. Like, you had to just deal with your emotions so front on.
Oh, and I think
like that is just so intense.
And like operating off no sleep as well.
With no family around you to give you any comfort, no best friends, no nothing. Like
it was raw, and it was, you know, there was like
I do remember you saying that the other contestants were like very supportive.
Yeah, they were amazing, and I think that's like why so many of them, you know, we don't speak every single day, not anymore, but like if we were to catch up tomorrow to be like, no, her time had passed. These relationships are so fast tracked out there. What would usually take 5 years happens in 5 days, you know. They know everything about you. So they were really great. But so to go through that like away was pretty radical. And then...
And you were saying there were just like moments you would just lose your absolute shit.
Oh, yeah, and like just howling, like because... And it's weird because... I felt like I had grieved her for a long time, but then nothing really prepares you for that moment. Like I was saying, like you lose her, and it's just like her physical body. It's like it's just so strange because I thought that I would be not okay with it, because you're never going to be okay with it.
You'd come to terms with it, you know, you'd accepted it, you knew it was on its way, but then when it actually hit, it actually...
And I think just dealing with...
You're also out in the middle of the outback in like a very like spiritual place as well.
Yeah. So I think it was actually the 26th of May when she passed away. And that night, I think was a lunar, it was like a blood moon or something anyway. Wow. It was like something really, it was something lunar, something different in the universe was going on. And I don't know, it just felt a bit like interesting to me. Just felt weird and different and unusual. But so I guess like that sort of brings us up to like the current, well, not currently, but like, you know, obviously since then, like, speak about like why it gives me a lot of purpose, and the thing that's the scariest thing in my life really defines everything and gives me this purpose, right? And like, I guess like that is partly why I want to chase these waves and I want to make the most of life and I want to inspire other people to do that. And
you want to like share other people's stories. There's so many people that have these stories, you know, similar to yours. You know, I know you've shown me, you know, so many different people that have been dealt even, you know, different diseases or different conditions that have, you know, just life-changing, and they push through and they've put one foot in front of the other, and, you know.
It's also just made me realise really what is important in life. And the only thing that is important in life is your friends and family and your relationships. And like the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. It's an Esther Perel quote that I fucking live by. And it is so true. If your social like life and your relationships is fucked, your life and like your emotional state and everything else is too. So it's something that
also like this, like you are one of the most motivated people I know. I mean, even just considering you're up every morning, just doing your thing, getting it done. You know, you're always outdoors. Like, you know, you're just you're one to be like a yes girl. Go and do, and that's why it's just been heartbreaking to see these cards you've been dealt this year with a broken foot, just when you're at the peak of everything that you're trying to do to live and achieve these goals and to get out there and be a go-getter, and just like one after another, it's just like it's so hard, but you're still here and you're still fighting. Like you are such a fucking fighter.
But the thing is, it's just like I said, like if you're living, shit is going to happen to you. And I think like,
your dad is like still freaking a weapon. He's still punching on. He's so strong. He obviously, like you mentioned it before, he needs
a bone marrow transplant to survive or to be cured.
Yeah, right? But that's the hard thing. It's those surgeries are super dangerous.
Yeah, it's like if he goes for the surgery, there's a 1 in 6 chance of dying, and like that ratio is kind of scary, obviously. And but I think what I was gonna, you know, that and he's on these chemo drugs, and like he has ups and downs, and like don't you worry. At the beginning of this year, he was not in a good way, and for a second there, I was like, holy, are we about to be saying goodbye here? But nah, Dad just keeps soldiering on.
He's an absolute weapon.
But what I was going to say, I think it's like super important. It's taking me a long time to be able to speak so candidly about this, and people might think, oh, why is she not like losing her shit right now? But like I've spoken about this enough to the point where I feel comfortable, like with my friends, but now I feel comfortable to share this moment here now with everyone else and our listeners, because I have realised over life, like, to be able to connect with people and to make people not feel alone in these situations, the only way to do it is to share these stories and make people not feel isolated and know that there are people going through similar things in life. And like you said earlier, you never know what is going on with someone. Like, so just be nice.
Totally. And it's, you know, I think even though we want to have a lot of, you know, fun and lighthearted moments in this podcast, we want to be vulnerable. We want to share stories that have been pivotal in our life, and so we will be getting deep, and we will be, you know, we've had a lot oh my gosh,
we are gonna get deep, and but I think it's just important for us to find those people that have had those amazing journeys and stories and share those.
And I think the most important thing to know is that you can still be in deep shit and be living your life to the fullest and making the most of it and being kind and having fun and going for it. And, you know, there's on the other side of the darkness is the lightness, and they both exist, and you need to fucking just go for it to, like you said, sink or swim. And I think that's our motto of this podcast.
Sink or swim, everyone. You've got a choice. I think there is a choice to like keep picking yourself back up every
doggy
day.
paddling.
Whatever that might look like, sometimes a bit more graceful than others.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't know. I think that's kind of up to the current day. But that's
you can totally just float for a while too, right?
Yeah, fuck, floating's great.
I love floating. A good old float. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah, floating's super relaxful. Relaxful.
But anyway.
Wow, that was a bit of a heavy one.
Yeah, absolutely love you. But thank you so much for sharing. And like you said, it's the only way for people to feel not alone. And that's what we want. We want our listeners to feel like they can know us and feel like they're not alone, and that anything that they're going through in their life they can tackle. And so what would you say is, the one thing that has helped you be the most resilient? Is it your relationships? Is it, just getting up every day and having that, like just having those things that you want to achieve every day? Or what is it?
I think there's two things, and I mentioned it before. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of your relationships. And if they're shit, everything else is not flowing. Like, who do you lean on in moments of despair and when you need a support group, right? It's pivotal to everything in life, and not just a partner, but your friendship group and your parent, the relationship you have with your family, if you have that, and if you're lucky enough to have close family members. And then I think the other thing that has been really important to me, and something that I think is important in anyone's life, is to find a passion, right? Because if you find something you're passionate about, you have purpose in life, right? And that gives life meaning.
Fucking YOLO, baby. Let's go.
Oh, we did it.
We're going to make the most of this.
Yeah, we are. We're going to take on some really big waves because YOLO! YOLO!
Oh, thanks, guys, for listening. We might have to chop that into 2, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, we'll see how we go. But thanks for listening, everyone. Just keep following along. Keep following us on Instagram. Keep following us on TikTok. Get your dogs and your cats to follow us. Everyone, follow us.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it. Yeah. Love yous.
Love ya.
Bye.